Good evening, everyone. So, Pan is here today, and Pan is quiet and just a little sad. Mom asked him if his day was good or bad. So, Pan snapped up and said, "You remember that uncle who came home? I don't like him at all. When he comes next time, please do not call. He holds me really tight and he gives me a fright. So I don't like him at all." Pan's mother thought, "This uncle seems quite nice. So why is Pan behaving this way? What is it that he wants to say?" And today, this is exactly what we are here to listen to what children have to say. Because sometimes they may want to say something and we may not be just listening to them. What to listen to and what to look at and how to keep our little children safe as they grow. And we have a very, very special guest today, Smita. A very, very warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sonia, for having me on this show. I'm very excited to be part of it because this subject has been very close to my heart for many, many years now.
Yes, and Smita, I have to just put this on. Today is the 99th week that we have tried to build this community. And this was one topic which I really hoped I would find somebody who would really speak to us with a deep understanding of the situation, of how things go wrong. What is it that we have to observe? Because I think this is something which just cannot be just read up. It has to be explained to us. So I am going to, not ask you too many questions, but I'm going to just ask you to just start with telling our audience what you do, what is the kind of organization you run, and also what is the kind of help you give people if they reach out to you. This is a very, very important link that we would like to create through this platform.
Sure. I call myself as a freedom fighter. The reason why I call myself, and not taking away from the freedom fighters who have done so many things from us, I tell people that I've set out on a journey, the change of which will take at least 100 years for us to see. I work in the space of safety. I work in the space of mental health, and I work in the space of creating inclusive places, right? Now, it has to start from children. I always tell the organizations that I work with that ground level work has to start from schools, colleges, in all this space. We have to create safety, safe places across. We have to ensure that we have inclusive places across, and we should have happy places across. And how can that happen? That's the work that we do. Now, a little bit about POCSO, the reason why I'm here today. I'm going to speak about a very unique law that we got in 2012. POCSO, the full form POCSO, POCSO is Protection of Children from Sexual Offenses. It is a 2012 act which got slightly amended in 2019. And I feel every person, not only parent or teachers, every person in the country should be aware of this law, right? So today, whoever are the participants, I request them to hear the entire conversation and speak at least to 5 people and take a commitment from them to speak to another 5 people, because we want to create a ripple effect about it. What we do is we work with schools to understand what is POCSO all about and what is their roles and responsibilities to create safe places for children, right? So that is what we do, Sonia.
That's amazing. Also, I also hear that you work with a lot of offices, a whole lot of communities to help them. I think, is it just to understand that something could be going wrong and realizing it, first of all?
Yeah, you know what? Strangely, people don't know what is harassment. If they suffer something, are they being victimized? They don't even know about it, right? So creating awareness is something that we do constantly, of course, and helping organizations help create such workplaces is something that is something on top of our chart all the time. We also create diversity and equity. So we are also working with a couple of organizations to see if they can create inclusive workplaces for the third gender. Okay, because we acknowledge uh, male child, female child, but
Yes.
the children who are from the transgender community, we do not acknowledge them. So we are working to create space for them in workplaces. But how do we do that if they are not educated enough, right? So we are actively pushing back these organizations to sponsor seats for them in
For
schools,
them to
in
be
colleges,
educated.
yes, so that they can also be educated. Not only that, people with disabilities, neurological disabilities, so all kinds of disabilities. So we're seeing how we can constantly uh, give ideas to the organization so they can start
To take it
putting
forward.
the CSR money into it. So we're coming up with a lot of ideas, a lot of thought processes, Sonia.
Yeah, and that we'll start with the simplest of thing. How do we understand or that there is something going wrong?
Yeah.
What that we have to watch out for as parents, as not only parents and teachers, but as people, adult people of a community, So what do we look out for?
Yeah, so there are a couple of roles that we play right here. First, as a parent, as a teacher, parent could be substituted by caregivers also, right? So what I think is, as a parent, you should be watching for signs, right? You important part is having open communications, okay, with your board, with your child. And are you being observant? Are you having your antennas on? Are you watching the signs, right? Also create a communication, free channel of communication. You have to speak up, uh, have an open conversation with them. uh, Another point is explain to them about good touch, bad touch, and there's something called a secret touch. Okay, while we all know about good touch and bad touch, but bad touch could be somebody who's angry and hitting somebody without sexual connotation. But there's something which is called secret touch, which has a sexual connotation. Are we speaking about that to our kids or wards, right? Share stories, share their personal stories, or share with them what happened with them throughout the day. Of course, they will have to use a filtration that they are kids and they will understand, absorb as much. So are they open for those stories? I mean, I feel as a parent myself, I feel how vulnerable I am with my kids. They're more open to share their ideas also. Okay. How strong I come across. There are times when I have to come across as a strong person. So you as a parent have a lot of juggling to do in your conversations, right? Um,
So, so one is when you communicate with children. यानी जब आप बच्चों से खूब सारी बातें करें, उनको बताएं कि आपकी दिनचर्या कैसी थी, उनको बस बात करने दें.
correct.
The other part is that maybe there is a child who is not going through a comfortable experience. Usually, on a normal basis, are there any visible signs that we can watch out for?
Yes, there are.
Or if what do we watch out for as parents, as teachers?
Yeah, I think the signs that you should watch out for is that the child is not ready to give you an eye contact. The body language of child has changed over a period of time. They are being cranky or not able to do something which they would have otherwise comfortably done. Okay, they are locking themselves in a room and not wanting to do what they would have otherwise done. Their appetite has either dropped, okay, mostly it drops. Some people also have anxious eating habits. Okay, some very few kids have that anxious. They start eating too much, eating a lot of sweets, right? So these are some things I think you should watch out. I remember a story that one of our instances where a child was in 8th standard, comes back from the school, and they come back, and the child is consistently crying, and is unable to share what really happened. Did they fall? Did they hurt themselves? Because parents only can think about that, right? But is constantly crying. So what this mother did was that school has a resource room kind of a facility where they can actually speak to some child counselors, because the parents were unable to decipher that what is happening, why is my child constantly crying. So they reached out to the school, and the school had this provision where they could speak to a child counselor, and they asked for tips and tricks how to handle this conversation. But finally, the counselor had to get involved, and they got to know that the child was undergoing an issue in the school bus. An older child, and that's again a curiosity of that older child, who was trying to touch her inappropriately in the bus. But she didn't know how to express, because she herself did not know what was happening to her, right? So, but the counselor could bring it about. There are ways and means that counselors also use. Counselors point out to a doll and ask open-ended questions like, tell me more about what happened. What do you mean by this? Give me an example. Can you just describe me a little more about it? Go on, come on, tell me what happened. And then what happened? An open-ended, not a cryptic question which has yes or no response, but a more open-ended questions they can ask. Avoid using words like why, how come, people suddenly become defensive, right? So all that should be avoided. Um,
I
uh,
want to ask you another little question. That we have, like we were just talking just before the show started, that we have people from different, behaving in different centuries
huh.
about the safety of their children. So can you just explain that to everybody? I think it would be a really nice perspective for people to have, because I also see a lot of extra, liberal, just letting children do whatever they want to, not allowing and not even explaining safety cautions to them. And if the parents very proudly telling me, हम तो कुछ भी करने देते हैं, कहीं भी चला जाता है हमारा बच्चा. So what would we say to this, parent, and especially if your child is just about 4 to 8 years old or 10 years old, where they really don't know what's happening. Slightly older children would still do.
Yeah.
Would you, explain that to all of us?
Yeah. So Sonia and I were speaking about how different kinds of parents behave in different fashion. It also comes from the background that we are brought up, right? So more evolved or more, urban that we are, which place do we live? I think we all get impacted by that. I was telling her how India lives in 4 centuries, right? India lives in 1800s, India lives in 1900, 2000, and also 2022, or way beyond 2050 also, right? So all depending on which century we are currently, we behave in that fashion. So as Sonia rightly mentioned, some parents are so strict that they have a, it's called helicopter parenting, right? They are monitoring their kids' every action, every behavior, and correcting them continuously. Now, that is one extreme. Other extreme is where the parents are are not aware what is happening to their kids on day-to-day life. So this is something which worries us, right, as counselors, as people who are working in this space, that how do we strike a balance? We cannot be so aggressive, because kids have mind of their own, right? If you do too much of helicopter parenting, then finally you will end up having kids who are lying to you, who are doing a lot of things behind your back which you may not know, right? And too much not having an open conversation or not knowing what they're doing is also really bad. So how do we ensure that while we give them all the liberty, we also have responsibility on them? So start making them responsible. Of course, as Sonia rightly mentioned, a child who is 6 years and above, you can have those conversations. For kids below 6 years, I think role modeling is the best thing. If you want your child to read a book every day, you will have to read a book every day, right? If you want your child to not watch too much TV, you will have to stop watching, or binging, right? So just by telling or preaching is not going to help for, of course, throughout, but 6 years and below children, we will have to use a lot of stories, lot of puppet shows, if we can share it with them. A lot of pictures we could use, that what is a normal behavior, what is an abnormal behavior, especially in good touch, bad touch. We use dolls, we use pictures, sharing with them what happens and taking them through the journey. I think that conversation is very important, and role modeling is most important, I think.
And also, perhaps, not constantly telling children to go very close to new adults or adults who, So I think there's a lot of times when I see children in social gatherings where, they say, go sit on so and so's lap, go give so and so a hug. So what will happen after some point of time is that they won't understand if the touch is being, not very good. So perhaps a certain amount of social protocols of keeping a certain amount of distance, do you think that is a good way to be, or is it over killing it?
See, I think that comes from a culture also, Sonia. From what kind of culture are you all coming up is important. If you ask a North Indian, hugging is the way they exchange wishes. Okay, that's how they exchange wishes. Also, touching feet. If it's a kid, they ensure that, even South Indians, for that matter, expect their kids to touch the feet of adults, right? Now, whether they should go and give a hug, maybe in an urban culture, hugging is something which is, but
More acceptable.
more acceptable. But if you go back to maybe tier 2, tier 3, hugging is not a concept, right? Making so for a normal child, filtering that behavior comes by experience, right? But if your child is bordering to maybe autism, who does not understand social interaction, and is a little slow in understanding that whom can I hug and whom can I not
Then
hug,
you have to be overcautious.
you will have to keep repeating yourself. You will have to ensure that you tell them, or tell them not to go ahead. So dealing with the children who are special is a different ball game altogether.
Right. So also, like rather than saying don't do this, it's good to just be really observant parents.
Yeah.
Watch out for signs. If you see children uncomfortable, sometimes, you'll find overly affectionate people, and you keep looking at them and wondering, please stop and don't just wonder. Observe carefully. Is that what you will tell them?
I would, as a parent, as a teacher, I would tell them that, if my child is uncomfortable and I feel that I would tell that adult also that she do not like to be
Does
hugged.
not like it.
So it's completely fine if you say hello and have a distance. And, we have such children around who do not like those physical touch at all. So go ahead and tell the adult that this is something you can expect and don't feel bad about it.
All
Uh,
right.
yeah, I think that is
So
also.
many of us, yeah, right. A lot of parents hesitate, in telling other people that, my child doesn't like this. Please don't do this.
Yeah.
I think that's a
Have to be
very
respectful.
important.
I think if you're respectful and say that, my child does not like it, do not do it, I think it is fine. And I think we should start doing it, because otherwise people think, Arey, what will they think about my child? Is my child appropriate
Yes.
to be doing that? I think we should stop judging ourselves and
And just,
watch ourselves from society lens. Just stop it. Your child is most important, and nothing more is important than your child's safety, happiness. Because if you're going to constantly push them saying go hug when they don't want to be hugged,
yeah,
I think that's
absolutely no. And also, when we talk about the whole act that we should be aware of, what is it that it tells us? If you can just, in a very short way, explain that to all of
yes,
us. That
yes, absolutely.
and
This is something that I was looking for. POCSO is something which came about in 2012, and that's what I mentioned. So what is POCSO, right? POCSO came to protect children from child offenses. It's a very special law. Why is it a special law? Prior to that, prior to 2012 Act, it went under IPC, Indian Penal Code. And what was the sexual harassment against a child? Maybe a rape or a molestation. Now, why is this special? This is special because rape and molestation could have happened only with a girl child or a woman, right? This law is gender neutral. There is a definition of a child which says every child which is who is below 18 years of age are covered. I think that's the most beautiful aspect, because if you look at the statistics, even a male child or a child from third gender also get harassed. Unfortunately, prior to 2012, there was a big question mark on how this was being dealt. So any form of sexual offenses is covered under this law, and it's very comprehensive. If you look at the law, they have detailed punishment also. Fortunately, the amendment which came in 2019 gave us a detailed punishment for every offenses, like not only penetrative sexual offense, but also non-penetrative sexual offenses were covered, which is a larger part, right?
Of what happens.
Sorry.
I said, yeah, that is a larger part of what happens usually.
Yeah.
That's what people, in fact, that's what I think a lot of children face without really realizing that it is an offense and this is what you have to look at. And do they also have a list of things which you say these are offenses? Do they
Yes.
have that list as well?
They do have, but some part of it which I don't find in POCSO Act is, like cyberbullying, cyber stalking. See, while till the age of 12 and 13, good touch is the most important. But people imagine the 2 years of pandemic, every child had a tab in their hands.
Yeah.
They used tab, so
Yeah.
cyberbullying, while some court cases and court laws, they cover that. But in the law currently, I don't see it very clearly written. Of course, using children for pornography is clearly called out there. But cyberbullying, cyber stalking, I think it needs a little bit more clarity, is my
There
point of
is.
view. My point of view, it is there. I mean, it's till the child turns 18, till 18. I mean, from 12 to 18, it's a big age gap. I think we are slightly missing that point, but it can be covered. Why it is important is this law, and everybody should know, is minimum punishment for POCSO is 3 years of imprisonment. Nobody knows about it. Nobody talks about it. So it is a very serious punishment, right? I mean, it is minimum. It's not maximum, minimum, which is a serious punishment. If it is called out, it is POCSO, then it is very clearly written that there will be 3 years of punishment, right? People think I can get away with it by making somebody, touch my body parts or something, by touching a child touch my body parts, and whatever pleasure they derive out of it, I can get away. No, if it is called out as POCSO, there's 3 years of imprisonment. And why it is important? Because people think this only happens in strata, lower strata. It doesn't happen in high profile families, but that's a super myth, right? It happens across. Okay. And 17% of world's children are in India. So this law was looked up by UNESCO. They were literally fighting to get this law in India. And fortunately, we have this law. So it is important that every citizen of country knows about it. And I feel there were a couple of movies which came by also talking about it, but I don't think they're talking very strongly about POCSO's nuances. I wish we could do something so that, every person around knows that this POCSO, like people know, unfortunately or fortunately, because of #MeToo, people know POSH law, prevention of sexual harassment workplace, but not many know about POCSO. And I think we should create a noise about it. Another important aspect, which I don't think many people know and we should all know, is mandatory reporting. So if you are a parent, if you are a teacher, if you are a bystander also,
You must report it.
have to report it. Otherwise, you will be in prison.
No,
So
so yeah. So I think also, Smita, as I'm speaking to you, I realize that as a community, this was such an important thing to talk about. And we will do our best to kind of make this reach more people. I mean, personally, I would do it as somebody who, I feel we've all neglected this part of child safety. We are talking about mental safety, we are talking about social emotional development, we're talking about the development of domains, and so on and so forth. And all of us are preparing for the new education policy, the new curriculum framework. Well, we need to get this more, even we need to read about it. I think that's one part of what I for one feel I've missed this out as a person who should have known it little more. So I will definitely read this up more, spread it, at least talk to people about it, tell them that this exists. We need to know about it, talk to more parents. I also work with large parent communities. So from my end, I will do what I can.
So
And
that's what, Sonia, I was thinking that through this medium, through this YouTube medium, it's my urge to every person who's listening to this conversation to at least talk to 5 people about POCSO law and get them to speak to more 5 people and continue make a chain out of it. And if we
yes.
can put it under this YouTube channel saying that they have spoken to 5 people and go on recording, and then there's a chain which is formed.
Oh, yes. So, yeah, so I will start it, Smita. That's the best thing to do. I always say that there is nothing better than, you doing what you want everybody else to do. So I will do my 5 people, and as soon as I finish that, I will put that on the Square Panda. And I hope the community takes it really seriously and, carries it forward and makes more people aware of it, that these are things you need to be kept. In your experience, Smita, what is it, without naming people, can you give us a few incidents to make us understand that this is what you have to watch out for? A few real cases that have come to you
Yeah.
and how you all have dealt with it.
Sure. A couple of things, people feel that only men are offenders, right? People feel that, we can have an ayah in the boys' room as well as girls' room, and our kids are protected. But there have been instances where women are also abusers. So there have been instances, without naming it. I think we should be vigilant of people because brains are same, right? You are man or a woman or
Yeah,
any other
yeah.
gender, your brains are same. So are we vigilant that with whom are we letting our kids go, right? Now as a school, are we doing some things like we are ensuring that we have a CCTV across and we are monitoring? Just having CCTV is not enough. Are we constantly monitoring it? Are we ensuring at least we have 30 days record which can be retrieved? Okay, I would want more, but I know a lot of organizations or schools do not have that capacity, right? Are we conducting regular sessions with our staff and parents and also children? So these are 3 kinds of different sessions. Are we having these regular sessions with them? Are we getting police verification of all our staff? Bus staff, school staff, canteen staff, whoever is coming in contact with our children, are we having their police verification done and seriously being done? Okay, because there are so many offenders roaming around, and I must give credit to our police department. They have created a strong database. They are in process, I won't say 100%, but they have created a database and we should use it very effectively, especially to protect our kids. Okay, and please read and communicate about POCSO. So that's one thing that, having thinking that only men sexually abuse children is not right, and we have had instances where women were also abusers. So please be mindful of that. The other myth that we have is, we always feel that if we see our child, we know that my child is being abused or not being abused. I want to break that myth that there are multiple times that we wouldn't even know our children are very good actors. Okay, they know how to, control their emotions, right? So I think it is very, very important to have a conversation with our children on daily basis. Yeah, if you have to look at the statistics, 1 out of 4 girl child get abused, and 1 out of 7 boys get abused. So that's a far big number,
Yeah,
right?
that's a big number.
So it is very important, and don't think that my child goes to the best of schools, my child has a driver attached who picks and drops. So I'm completely at ease. Please do not break your communication channel with your kids. It's a complete no-no. So this is something we have seen.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go one step further. Trust nobody blindly. I think that's one thing which I would say, because I've also been in early years, in charge, and the kind of cases we've seen have been so painful.
Yeah.
I would just, and they have come from people who are completely trusted. So I stopped saying, don't let strangers come near. We used to say with, oh, this is a circle and you can only allow these people to come near. Now I just say, move your hands out by this much and keep safe. I think like that's one thing which I so strongly tell everybody, that please counter check everyone who's with your children, every single person. I think it's so.
That's another very good data, that incest is generally a child abused by somebody whom they know.
No.
So somebody who's your family member, somebody who is close to your child. Okay, that's another myth. That only stranger danger is absolutely a myth. So please, somebody who's very good to you is not necessarily not an abuser. I don't mean to say now wear a glass and
No.
everybody as abusers, but have an open conversation with your kids. Be mindful where you're leaving your children. If at home or if in school, have CCTV covered. Speak to your children about good touch, bad touch, and I spoke to you about secret touch. Especially ask your child very open-ended questions. Ask that, I have a secret to tell you, see how they respond to it. Because generally the abusers say that, this is a secret between you and me, right? It's our game. It's our game who nobody should get to know about it. So please be mindful of those conversations. If your kids are bringing up saying, yes, I have a secret game with someone, please be interested in knowing that, right? Maybe.
Yes. And I also feel that another thing very important that I see in the environment is very young children have got access to a lot of the digital data which children at certain age groups should not be seeing.
Absolutely.
It creates a sense of curiosity. So please watch out for your children if they're going and playing in corners. Please don't let them out of, the play should be within sight. That's one caution which I would say, whether we know the POCSO Act or not, please let your children play in sight, in open sight. I think that really helps, especially where this curiosity-based abuse can happen.
Absolutely. So what you're talking about is called sexualized behavior. Like, in toddlers, if they are touching themselves too much in their private part, okay, or they are, if they are a little older, they are trying to see either on their tab, or they're liking to watch nude older people. That is something that should be cautioned. What sites, what games are they playing? So keep tab on their cyber use, right? That's very, very important. So we should ensure that, sometimes what happens is your child prefers to wear layers and layers of clothing. Okay, though the weather is not that cold, but they do not want anybody to touch them. So they're they're expecting you to wear something inner, telling that I want to wear another layer and another layer. That is also a very good sign for parents to watch out. If they are having recurrent nightmares or, sleeplessness, okay, it is another very good sign for you to keep an eye on. Okay. If they are not mingling around with the social circle, okay, they could be introvert. If they're introvert, they're introvert, but suddenly there is a change in their relationships across. This is something you should be watchful about. Suddenly they develop a very low self-esteem. Okay, you see that they are not as usual, they are not confident, their self-esteem has dropped. That is another place that you should be watchful about. Suddenly they would tell you that they don't want to go to a place. So if you are
Yes.
a teacher, they'll say, I don't want to go back to my house. Or if you are a parent, they'll say, I don't want to go to a particular tuition or particular, I don't want to go to school, or I don't want to go to play, or I don't want to go with this driver, I don't want to go in the bus. These are
Watch out.
important cues. These are important cues. Do not ignore saying that one of the mood tantrums, right? And how you respond is also important. Not only the words you use, the non-verbal cues are also important. What kind of eye contact are you giving? Are you giving a loving eye contact, or you are trying to scare them? They know it. They sense it. They are very, very smart, right? What is your body language? Okay, they will be watching you. Okay, your facial expression, they are watching you. So as a parent, these are so important. You have to constantly, I won't say that you are 100% perfect, but please work on this, because we have to protect our kids.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And there's another little thing which I also noticed, and also a lot of schools spoke to me about when the pandemic was over and the children came back. This is something which I thought, because we are talking about offenses of children, please remember when children are sleeping in the same room and you're watching these very, very, very not good programs for children, please remember when children are asleep, their ears are not shut, they are not deaf. The ears are open, they're sensing everything, and schools are experiencing a very, very uncomfortable spurt, which could have been avoided if we were a little more careful. I mean, I won't really say this channel or that channel or whatever, but whatever you're watching, please remember when your children are asleep, they're listening. So yeah, it's been when I started this conversation with you, I had wondered, how we are going to deal with it and how we are going to, but you made it so simple and straightforward for all of us that just sit down, keep the correct eye contact, look into the eyes of the children in a nice way, listen, and like they say, talk to listen to children. That's what you said. Don't talk to them just to talk to them, talk to listen. Understand that abusers could be men or women, they could be young or old, they could be strangers or family, they could be very, very trusted people. So just be cautious. And all of us must go out there and read about this act. And as Smita says, talk to 5 people about it.
Yes, absolutely.
You
And I
know,
loved how you summarized it.
and just take it forward in the sense that no, it has deep meaning for me, Smita. I felt incomplete when we were closing our 100th week, and I'm very grateful for you to agree to come on our show and just more aware, and grateful to the Square Panda team that found you for us. Thank you so much, and like I said, the chain, we will not let it break.
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
Very
Thank
good.
you. Thank you.
Square, square, panda.